Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Angelica Violet and all I talk about is weight-related stigma and plus-size clothing because that's all I have left to my personality. So today we're going to be discussing mixed weight relationships. This is a very interesting topic to me because I would classify myself in a mixed weight relationship. My boyfriend and I started dating in 2018 and we were around the same weight. I was of course a little heavier, but as our relationship continued, we'll be together for almost 2.5 years now, and he has progressively lost weight and I have gained weight. Weight loss or weight gain has not been intentional for us. It's just been what our body is going through. So this was an interesting topic for me to discuss. I will be using the words plus size, person in a bigger body, fat person, all interchangeably. When I use them, there is no stigma or moral high ground to any of them. I think they're all very neutral terms and I don't mean to be offensive. So let's hop into it. Dating as a person in a bigger body can be difficult because not only do you have to worry about yourself and if people find you attractive, but then also you have to start worrying about what will people think about you and the person that you're together with. There was a study done in the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships called Date Someone Your Own Size. They asked 230 volunteers to assess on a scale from 0 to 100 avatars that depicted real-life couples. Partners who were both straight size, aka skinny or normal size, received an average score of 64. When couples were both plus size or fat, they received an average score of 58. But couples where one partner was fat and one was skinny received a much lower score. They had an average of 51. This was true for when the woman or man in the mixed weight relationships was fat or plus size. I thought this is really interesting. Why did the mixed weight relationship score so much lower than the other couples? One theory is that people don't like when couples are different. And yes, I like to think that even in 2021, we've sort of took down these stigmas, but it's still around. To this day, I still feel like there is a lot of backlash when couples are different. This is seen in like religion, race, languages they speak, and now in this case, weight. To be honest, I feel like people are just uncomfortable with other people dating outside of their personal bubble. Like, sorry, white supremacists and hillbillies, not everyone's trying to date their second cousin and keep all their genes in the same pool. You nasty. Another theory is that people do not want a thin person with a fat person. Some people might think that the skinnier person deserves better, or the skinnier person is selling themselves short. Or they can't believe that the fat person has found someone that could actually love them and find them attractive. And if you kind of break this down, it's starting to seem like people that are fat don't deserve skinny people and their love. And if you're a smaller person dating a big person, you're selling yourself short because there are definitely some more thin people out there that'll find you attractive. And this just further instills the message that fat people are bad and thin people are good. Whether this is unconscious or conscious, there seems to be this moral high ground for thinner people. For some reason, people just think a thinner person is better than a fat person just solely based on their weight and not knowing anything else. People think that thin people are better and they should not be with fat people. People think that thin people are better than fat people and that's why they shouldn't be together. But don't worry, fat people don't deserve skinny love, but they can have fat love. But you know what? Not everyone is gonna be like Mike and Molly. You know, God bless that show, but not every fatty is gonna be just like them. When doing more research about mixed weight relationships, I found a really interesting article that Daphna Steinberg wrote. Daphna is an artist from Washington, D.C., and she states, "I'm plus size, but I'm short, so I've dated a lot of taller, skinnier men. I've had people congratulate me on dating a man who they've deemed as sexy. It makes me feel like they're telling me that I should feel lucky that a conventionally attractive man would find me appealing enough to date." She also mentions in this article how thinner women would flirt with her boyfriends right in front of her. And sadly, a lot of things come up when people are in mixed weight relationships. And the first one is backhanded compliments. A backhanded compliment is a compliment that implies it is not really a compliment at all. So some people might say, "You're a very lucky girl," when you're a plus size person dating a thinner person. Meaning that, wow, I can't believe this skinny guy over here thinks this fatty's hot. Like, you are fat and he's so much hotter. Why are you guys together? I don't get it. There is also just plain out disrespect. Like in the article, Daphne was talking about how people straight up flirted with her boyfriend in front of her. Not only do those people not respect their relationships, but especially they do not respect the fat person in the relationship. And of course, there is just an underlying tone that a skinny person deserves better, especially when the fat person is the woman or the femme. Some people might think, you don't deserve to be with them. And they might think that the skinny partner is selling themselves short. Obviously, because there's way more attractive people out there than this fatty over here. I'm sure there's someone else that would want to date him. This brings me to my next point of that fat people aren't allowed to have any sort of standards. A lot of people think that fat people are like bottom of the barrel trash and no one wants them and they should just take whatever they could get, but that's simply not the truth. And Cece Alyssa talks about this in her article that she wrote for Refinery 29 called "No, My Boyfriend Isn't Settling for a Plus Size Person." Cece says, "People have implicitly and outright told me that because I opt to only date the men I found attractive that I was a superficial fat chick. People have opinions on who should be dating whom, but most of those opinions are often built on myths and judgments they subscribe to, even though they'd be too embarrassed to say those things out loud. One myth is that only thin people are attractive. For some people, fat is a synonym for ugly. I've been called fat and ugly before, almost as if it's one word." And I love the point that she talks about how people think that fat and ugly are the same term. And I'm not sure if the word fugly is technically fat and ugly. I always just thought it was fucking ugly, but I think I should do some research into that and stop saying it. And this continues to prove that we've been brainwashed to think that skinny equals beautiful and fat equals ugly. But that's simply not true. People of all shapes and sizes can be beautiful. I'm gonna show you some hot fat people because I know that there's some fat hotties out there. First off, let's talk about some hot men. Sorry, I'm unfortunately a bisexual, so I find men attractive. We have the following kings: Seth Rogen, Ice Cube, Jack Black, Jonah Hill, Post Malone, Action Bronson, and one of my faves, Matthew Mattinson, who's a chef. And now let's talk about some hot women. We of course have Tess Holliday, Ashley Graham, but we also have Nicole Byer, Nikki Blonsky, Queen Latifah, Adele pre-weight loss, Chrissy Allen, Monique, Kathy Bates, and Anna Nicole Smith was thicker in some parts of her career, but I mean the list just goes on. Once we start to take gender in consideration of this subject, things kind of change. There's so much misogyny in this world, and that is even seen within mixed weight relationships. We've been taught that women need to be smaller than men, and if a man is dating a big woman, then he's obviously settling. And for the sake of this video, I just wanted to talk about films and TV shows that portray these things, just to give you an image of what's actually going on in our society. So there are films and TV shows that do this kind of okay. Like we have Lincoln Tracy from Miss Hairspray. Woo! I don't watch Empire, but from when I was doing research online, it says that Becky Williams dates some thinner guys in the TV show Empire. And then we also have the new reality TV show called Hot and Heavy that's on TLC. Still have not watched that, but I think I need to get on it. Now buckle your seatbelts because we're going to talk about films that are bad at portraying a thin man being with a fat woman. The more recent film that I'll be discussing is Isn't It Romantic by Rebel Wilson. You know, I don't mean this in like a mean way, but does Rebel Wilson just hate herself? Because I feel like she always takes these awful roles that are just like continuously demonizing her for being the fat person. Like we have her in Bridesmaid being like some weird fucking incest woman. And then in Pitch Perfect, her name is literally Fat Amy. Like there's so much more to Rebel Wilson than her just being fat or plus size. Anyway, I digress. So at the beginning of the movie, Rebel Wilson is watching movies on the TV, and then her grandma or some mom figure walks in and she's like, "That's never gonna be us." And it's like two hot people on the screen making out and being in love. It seems like the point to make across is that because they're ugly, but they're really not. I think it's making me think that it's because they're fat or chubby. So later on, she grows up, fast forward, and she's having a lot of problems dating. And her friends are just talking about how she's not open enough, and that's why she's having guy problems. But then she gets off the train, and this guy comes up to her, and she's like, "Oh my god, maybe this is like my fairy tale moment." But then he robs her, and then steals her purse, and then she steals her purse back. But then she ends up running into a metal pole and gets knocked into another dimension. We're not done yet. And this is where she gets stuck in a PG-13 rom-com. And what really gets me is this is when she's like finally able to land a conventionally attractive man, and they're like absolutely in love and he's obsessed with her. And I feel like that just perpetrates the idea that it's actually a fucking miracle for a fat woman to land a hot guy. Just my thought, but whatever. Maybe I'm looking into things too deeply, but I have a feeling that I'm not. Do you guys think that? How do you feel about Rebel Wilson? Next, we have Shallow Hal. Personally, I've never watched this movie, but when I was doing research on it, a lot of people had things to say about it. So basically, Shallow Hal, aka Jack Black. Sorry I mentioned you for being hot earlier. I kind of want to take it away now because we're talking about this movie. So Shallow Hal is like always dating these super hot, like movie stars, and they're super shallow and they always do him dirty, and he has a lot of problems with relationships. So his friends start to tell him that, like, hey, you just go for looks. You need to like start getting to know other people and maybe they'll treat you right. Somehow he ends up being hypnotized into falling in love with Gwyneth Paltrow's character, and he sees her as like regular Gwyneth Paltrow, but everyone else in the world sees her as fat Gwyneth Paltrow, and she's in a fat suit. Ew. Fuck fat suits. I hate fat suits. And Gwyneth Paltrow's character just portrays so many things that are stereotypical and make people like into a caricature. Like, she's constantly breaking furniture, she's like gluttonously eating food and it's like flying all over the place, getting it all over her face. And everyone is just like flat out disgusted by her at all times in the movie, but Hal doesn't get it because he sees her as thin, beautiful Gwyneth Paltrow. But in reality, she's fat. Like I said, never watched that movie, but let me know what you guys think. And then we have Norbit. I don't think I've watched this movie since I was like 6 years old, but it definitely sparked a little memory in my brain when I was talking about the subject. If you don't know what Norbit is, it's Eddie Murphy, and he plays this like thin, nerdy guy, and then he also plays, I always forget how to say her name, Respucia? I'll put it on the screen because I don't want to be disrespectful to this imaginary character. But everything in this movie is just disgustingly offensive and just portrays so many tropes. Like in the movie, Norbit is portrayed as this victim because he's together with this fat woman, but then he's constantly reinforcing the idea that fat women, particularly fat black women, are loud, obnoxious, undesirable, and only can get men to appreciate them out of sheer brute force. Safe to say this movie is disgusting. And being fat is already something that's really difficult, but then once you add race onto it, it just makes it even more difficult. So big thumbs down for Norbit and Shallow Hal. So let's reverse the roles. Why do we never give fat men any slack for dating a thin woman? Or a thin woman for dating a fat man? I don't know, misogyny maybe? And there's so many TV shows that portray a fat man with a skinny wife. We have Homer and Marge from The Simpsons, Uncle Phil and Aunt Viv from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Jay and Gloria from Modern Family, and there's even a lot more animated shows like Family Guy with Peter and Lois, The Flintstones, Parks and Rec, That 70s Show, the list goes on and on. Life imitates art, art imitates life. Movies and TV shows are created like this because that's what's happening in society. Society is misogynistic and women are just viewed as some trophy or some prize. So when a fat man dates a skinny woman, she's seen as a trophy wife. Like, congratulations man, you land that hottie, good for you. But when a fat woman dates a thin man, everyone is like, well, what's wrong with this guy? Why is he with her? There's always more empathy for the fat man than there is for the fat woman. Especially when we start to boil down characters and take away fatness. The fat man in most of these TV shows are just seen as the breadwinner or the moneymakers of the family. So it's okay that they're fat because, you know, they're supporting the whole family. And to make this more personal, I definitely feel like I have internalized a lot of these thoughts and feelings around mixed weight relationships, because a lot of the time when I'm with my boyfriend, I feel like he's too hot, why does he want to date me? Or like, he's too good for me, why does he want to be with me? Like, I don't understand why he thinks I'm attractive. And don't get me wrong, my boyfriend is so loving and gives me compliments and stuff like that, but all of this stuff is internalized because I've been taught for so long that if I was fat, I was unlovable and unattractive and no one would want me or no one could love me. I'm 24 years old and I've been working on like all sorts of body image and body positivity stuff for years now, and that's just something that I've internalized so deep down. My boyfriend has never commented on my body, he's never mentioned our weight difference, but it's still something that sadly I think about regularly. So let me know what you guys think about this topic, and let me know if there's any other topics that you think would be interesting to discuss, particularly weight-related bias or just, I guess, clothing stuff. I don't know. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, make sure to like and subscribe. Peace!